What is up? It is the 21st of July. Crazy how this year just keeps going and going and going. Well, I've got the mad scientist with me. Coach Rob, what's up, man?
Hey, good morning, buddy. What a great weekend of racing, wasn't it?
It was besides the red flag. The red flag I wasn't too keen on the red flag, mainly just from a racing standpoint, is that you just had the top four SOBs and they were within a half a second with each other, because truthfully that track didn't seem very racy. It has always been somewhat of a little bit of follow the leader because of the shadows and the deep ruts. These guys end up sort of slot car racing, and it's a tight track.
Yeah.
So I was bummed about the red flag.
Yeah, the red flag, and I hope, and I apologize, I don't remember who it was that got hurt, but hope he's okay. I mean, red flag is no game, right? If they
No.
have to red flag the race, we know we're not playing. I hope the bike that bounced into the crowd, I hope nobody got hurt with that. The way that replay, it looked like the bike bounced through and back onto the track, but I couldn't tell if it hit anybody. But
You're
if it
talking
did,
about Jeremy Han?
pardon me.
Are you talking about Jeremy Han's Honda?
Yeah, the bike that bounced through. I hope Han's doing okay, and if the bike hit anybody, I hope thank you so much. Yeah, Jeremy. Yeah, I just hope that if anybody got hit by the bike, politics aside, we just always hate when somebody gets hurt. Like you said in your review show, we've had so many people, unfortunately, that have lost their lives this year alone. It's been a rough year, but just I do agree with you. The slot car racing was a little bit difficult, but the red flag, I personally have a problem, not really a problem, but I just picture you're such a better racer than I am, Johnny. And if I just happen to get one of those good starts and I'm latched onto you and I'm having a good race, um, I guess we could look at it two different ways. If you're somebody who's always beat me and I've just got a good start and I've got 10, 12 seconds in front of you, and then we restart it and now you're a half a second behind me, I'm like, dadgummit, all that work I put in, I lose. Now I know with 42 guys on the gate, 41 if somebody's injured, not coming back to the gate, of course, but I know it'd be difficult to whatever that time gap was when they red flagged it. If I'm 12 seconds ahead of you, I get to resume at 12 seconds ahead. That would be the only thing that I would like to see. I don't like where you've worked so hard to get a little bit of a gap. I know it was a little bit early in the moto as well, but that's the only part that I would like to change if possible. But I know logistically that'd be difficult.
Honestly, I disagree. I think
that's okay.
If you're out front by like 20 seconds and a red flag hits, I would like to see everyone bunch back up again, because then it makes for racing. Because again, this sport it sells to be entertainment.
Sure.
And as much as, yes, from an athlete's point of view, it's not fair because you were out front, you didn't cause a red flag, that sort of thing. But if you look at all other sports, that's what happens. F1, there's plenty of times when leader's out front and he's not allowed to change tires, and then everyone else is allowed to change tires, and your race is pretty much screwed at that point. That I kind of disagree with, but I do agree with them bunching back up together. What I don't disagree with is what we've seen before is with the red starts, is just have guys do another start. That's happened a couple times past like the 9-minute mark. And I'm glad that the rules have changed so that if you are out front and there's a red flag, you get to start out front again. And
Agreed.
I did like how this was not the little staggered here, because we've seen stuff like even with the Pulp Privateer Showdown last year in Denver. Well, this year in Denver, where I think Kyle Chisholm was able to just come swinging around a crap ton of people. You shouldn't really be able to pass anybody. So I liked the point, boom, 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 boom. But there should be more of like a light switch on the bikes or something that tell you when to go, because the guy running across the track, what happens if he trips and then just gets run over? It would look bad for TV, and it would look bad for the sport. But here, Coach, I didn't add my
Yeah, I do agree with you 100%. I look at it from an athletic standpoint. I know I'd be frustrated with that, but like you say, we do have to respect that it's entertainment. Yeah, if you watch this bike bounce, I can't tell if it hits somebody right there and then it goes back over the fence. And if you listen to that audio on that Dirt Bike Lovers MX that posted it, it sounds like they're in the audio room and you hear the guy a little bit miffed, like, why are we zooming in on that? And the girl's like, because we thought Jett was coming through. Um, I don't know, man. It just rubs me the wrong way. It's almost like whoever was in the editing room that kind of got ostracized because they were focusing on that and kind of a little irritated with the cameraman because he focused on it. So
I'm in my messages. You see all my messages on the side here. Dun, dun, dun. Glad that the Martinator, glad that he's back on Aprilia, and he's not happy about it, but he's trying to do his best here. But no, I agree, Coach, that it does give away the feeling that things have been hidden for a long time. And that just,
well, just to give you immediate evidence of it, I mean, for Weege to say that that Swall is just laying there, his foot is completely motionless, and you could hear James like, no, I think it's a little bit more than he's just stuck under the bike, because anyone that's been stuck under a bike never just lays there and says, hey, I'll just hang out here till somebody comes and
gas
gets the
is
bike
going
off.
on, radiator's hot, pipe is hot, the
Pipe
pipe's
is
on
hot.
that side,
Yeah.
like
But
we all knew that he was out.
But that just shows you how blatant the cover up is. And I know it goes back to, and you did a great job of the Frenchman that was yanked off the track and unfortunately is now paralyzed. And I know ever since that went down, right? You've noticed it's when there's an accident on the track, you notice that there is zero TV. There's no camera on the accident whatsoever. We saw it in Supercross. You're seeing it with outdoors. As soon as somebody's down, the camera's switched and we never come back to it. If you notice during the broadcast, even though they talked about the red flag, they never went to where the rider was down.
Coach, the Chili Bowl, what are those cars? They're the open seat, big wheel, single seat cars that go around like the half mile.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat will probably know, but I know at the Chili Bowl, that whole sport, they do not cover any crashes. Like it's ostracized, and it's almost as if they have all the fans and everyone to believe that the reason why they're not showing any of the crashes is just because it's bad juju, it's bad luck to show. But in reality, I mean, it's a big safety concern, and we can learn from the mistakes to change this. And I believe I heard somewhere that Sexton was bringing up this section, saying that this was dangerous, that something like this could happen here. But I mean, this has been part of the track for years, but there might have been something that may have needed to be changed above here to prevent this from happening. Because if this motorcycle did nail some fans, I mean,
but listen to what you just said, though.
If they were just sitting in the, could you imagine just sitting in your lawn chair and then just getting tattooed by, that would have snapped your back.
No time to even move. I mean, if you think about it, we're watching this, right? Imagine you're sitting there and all of a sudden the bike comes up. You're just sitting there kind of minding your own business. Maybe you're not even looking to the right. You hear it coming. You all of a sudden look to the right and you look up and there's a bike in your face.
I guarantee next year fans are not going to be allowed to come down here. I mean, they weren't able to come down there very far but they're going to have to stay on top of the hill.
But I guess the problem that I have, and we're seeing this more and more, it's like when I don't care if we're on the regular NBC broadcast, we have to be told that a Honda's a red bike and a Kawasaki's a green bike. It's just extremely insulting for the people like us who are diehard fans. It just seems
I disagree. This sport is so small.
Okay. Yeah, but who's watching it? I have to buy NBC. I have to buy the Peacock app. I have to go to a certain specific date and a time. And how many new people are watching the sport? And it just makes us look very, very, very immature as a sport when we're like, you've got a guy that's completely pinned underneath the bike, his foot's not moving, and the commentator is saying, oh, he's stuck under the bike. It just makes us like, it's almost as if the person who's commentating is watching the sport for the first time, because anybody who 99.9% of the people watching are like, he's not stuck, he's KO'd. We just look foolish. That's all. But
Well,
I
but
hope
coach, like
Jalik's okay.
that's what's commentating is about, is you're supposed to, it's almost as if you're just describing what is going on right now. But it would be nice to be like, I think he's knocked out. I don't understand
That's
why
the point.
why
That's the
you
point.
can't say that. Why you can't say, ooh, I think he is knocked out. And then you could segue it to, well, we've got a wonderful Alpine Star medical unit that's going to go get him checked out and make sure that he's healthy for the second moto if he is. But I mean, if he's knocked out, he's not really allowed to.
But here's the crazy part to me, though, Johnny. It was very clear he was knocked out. It's not like just because it's said or not said on the broadcast, it's going to change the end result. So just call like James did. James did a spectacular job. He politely disagreed. I think it's a little bit more than being stuck under the bike. And then next thing you know, the cameras moved away from Jalik, and we didn't see much about him until he was in the mechanics area. And then they showed the replay of the Asterix medical crew coming over, and they're kind of doing and you see Jalik shaking his head and everything else. It's just, I feel like sometimes whoever the powers to be, whether it's NBC, MX Sports, they treat us like we're completely ignorant. And what makes them look so foolish is we can see straight through what narrative they're trying to promote, because the narrative is incorrect. So it's just, I don't know. I just think sometimes they forget who the fan is, and the people who are paying for the premium to watch the racing every weekend doesn't need to be told what color the bikes are. And I understand when we were live on NBC, but then it was again said during the second motos. And I'm just like, man, it's kind of like the whole, do you know who your market is? Whether it was the Pride Month thing, and it's like Budweiser. It's like, do you not know who your market is? I don't know. It's just nuts.
Well, maybe there's just nothing else to say. I would say that the biggest gripe I have with the broadcast is halfway through the motos, they take up half the screen for the podium deal, which just makes no sense to me. I mean, if you're taking a pee break or if they're doing something behind, just let it play. Just leave the live timing and scoring on the left-hand side. I think that is better. But I do agree, Coach. There is some minute things that somewhat hinder the progression of the sport. However, I do like that it is on NBC and Peacock, because you do have to go searching for it. And I mean, honestly, I still have to go searching for the Tour de France when I'm on there. Golf is really the only thing that shows up right away. And I'm like, no, I want to watch the Tour, so I'm always having to go over to sports, and usually moto is right there.
Well, just the idea, out of respect for Hand, I think it was mentioned in the chat room here that he wasn't even mentioned on the broadcast that he was the one who went down. So it's like you have Jalik who's laying, and they say he's stuck under the bike. That's not really true. Then you just have a bike that careened off the track that caused a red flag, but we're not going to talk about why we're red flagged. We just have a rider down. It just cover up on top of cover up that's so blatant on live TV. And it's just like, why? Because I understand. Help me out. What was the name of that gentleman who got pulled off the track and is paralyzed? Marvin Musquin's buddy.
I gotta look it up, Coach.
I apologize. I can't remember his name, but yep, we know. And it was on film, and that was used as part of incriminating evidence, and then he ended up losing anyways, which was sad. But just because we watched it on live TV, it's not like you're going to go back.
The sad thing was that was his first pro race too.
But
and his first qualifying.
Was it Moreau? Was that it?
Yeah, Brian Moreau.
Brian Moreau. But it's not like, because we're watching it on TV, it's not like we can back up the video, act like it was never captured. If it's captured and it's going to be used as evidence, it's evidence. I mean, but there was no negligence in it. You know what I mean? So the knee-jerk reaction to some of the things that have been done, it just, I don't know. I'm thankful we get to watch racing every Saturday, but the people who try to do the cover up, they do make themselves look extremely foolish, in my opinion.
Well, Jeremy is a 2-digit number too. This is something that you should definitely give him some advertisement on the broadcast, you know, because he's
Yeah.
obviously going to the majority of the races. So that is something that, and people want to know if he's okay. So
Yeah.
let people know, hey, yeah, that was Jeremy Down that went down. Because A, people want to know what caused the crash, and then B, they want to know if he's okay.
Yeah.
So, and
Well, is he okay?
honestly,
Does
I
anybody
didn't
know?
even hear he hasn't posted anything.
Okay.
He hasn't posted anything, which is not a good sign
Yeah.
because
Michael McGinnis has a comment here. He says, imagine a new person watching and seeing the carnage. The sport's extremely dangerous. I don't see a problem with that. I don't, life is dangerous. Walking across the street's dangerous. If you watch the Tour de France so far this year, there's been some horrendous wrecks in the Tour de France. There's people who have died in the Tour de France, but they still show the guy hit the wall and go over the wall. They don't act like it didn't happen. So I'm not sure where Michael's going with his comment there. And I say that politely, Michael, if you could elaborate, imagine a new person watching and seeing the carnage that this sport's extremely dangerous. I think everybody who turns it on would go, wow, that looks like a pretty dangerous sport, but it looks fun. You could drown in an open water swim in a triathlon. You could hang your wheel up in a coping in a skateboard park. I mean, it's where do you stop that every sport's dangerous? Jumping out of an airplane with a parachute, I wouldn't consider that very safe either.
Comment, but there it is.
What'd you find?
The comment. I just was trying to.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
The screen so everyone could see.
Yeah. I would just be curious because if we're gonna, be worried about showing anything that's dangerous, I don't know what we would watch.
Dude, this sport has gotten so much more dangerous. It's I don't want to say it's laughable, but it's scary. It's scary how much dangerous that goes to. Like, I go to some of the supercrosses and holy shit, man, I almost pissed my pants just walking the track where I'm like, okay.
So what's the solution though, Johnny? You've been a pro, you've been at that elite level. Do we slow the bikes down and slow the tracks down? We've talked about this on the show before. You look at, 1982 Supercross, and none of the jumps were really well designed. They're purposely hard to jump. Lap times were slower. Bikes were slower. Suspension wasn't quite as good. What's the solution?
Well, it's a progression thing. Guys are so talented right now, and the bikes are able to almost jump the entire section if you want it to. At least the factory bikes. The privateer bikes aren't as good. And truthfully, like looking at what happened to Jerry Robin landing on his head, I've seen that same deal happen hundreds of times with privateer suspension and privateer bikes. Not privateer bikes, but factory bikes. I need to get my words correct. Factory motorcycles with factory suspension. That stuff is so good that it's just on another level. And then when you have these production level bikes that have, A-kit suspension and stuff out there, that's where I feel like things get dangerous because there's such a discrepancy in equipment. Talking to world champion Donnie Hansen last week, I was asking him, hey, back in 82, what was the difference between a production bike and your factory bike? And he just laughed at me. He's like, I wouldn't swing a leg over that piece of shit production bike ever, dude. The factory bikes are so much better. But yeah, that was a world where it was almost like the GPs, where here's the works bike and you're left with everything else. So in full circle, to make the sport safer, I would stop having such different levels of equipment out on the track with guys, because what happened with Han there might have been avoidable if he had better equipment. Because
I have to agree with you, because Chase Sexton pointed it out, and Chase, is realizing, man, I'm glad I've got this suspension, because if I didn't, it would have been that end result, to your point exactly.
And I've spent the last couple of weeks talking about suspension, and I'm almost at the point where I think that where I want to ask the factory teams, where I'm going, hey, do you guys have some sort of just telemetry on the motorcycles that are constantly adjusting the clickers on the bikes for every different circumstance here because it doesn't make sense. And I'm not taking away talent, okay?
Sure.
Because Jett, again, generational talent. Tomac is legendary talent. Sexton, I've said it time and time again that I think he's arguably the fastest SOB on the track when he gets out of his own goddamn way,
Sure.
his head. However, those motorcycles are so far superior than anything else. I do want to just see factory racing because the privateer stuff, watching, like I was even watching Mosman, who is the motocross action test rider. He's Michael's brother, Josh. He's his older brother, and watching him ride around, I'm like, dude, that guy is super fast,
Yep.
super fast. When I've ridden with him out at Glen Helen, he hauls effing ass.
That's what I was going to use was Glen Helen. He's unreal.
Yeah, that's his home track. That's where they do all the testing and everything. But when you put those bikes up to the factory guys, it's laughable how much slower you are. 10 seconds is just, it's laughable. And I don't necessarily believe that it's all talent. It's primarily motorcycle. And that's why I want to get to the realm of racing where let's fucking make the 250 class. Let's make the 250 class the stock class. And that's the class where the production bikes are this. You have production suspension and everything so that these guys don't feel the need to try to go out there and jump this giant jump. Because talking with the sport, I've had conversations with them and they're going, yeah, we have to talk with the track owners and we have to cut stuff down because a lot of the riders are like, don't make us do this because the bikes are capable of doing that. But then in the 450 class, leave it unlocked. You have a gate of, for a motocross, I don't care that there's 40 riders on the gate. Put 20 factory guys on there. And if guys like AP get out because of so-called Epstein-Barr and Cooper Webb goes out because he's got to redo his knee. And then, all these guys that are getting injured and moving, well, you have a backup guy from your 250 team and move up to the 450 class. But have 20 factory guys that are works motorcycles, 450, 250. It'll be safer with just having stock stuff without having them commingled on the same track, where that, to me, at the same time, is not fair to the privateers because it makes them look inferior and slow, which, yeah, 10, 15% they are, if I'm using statistics. Okay, but that was a very long-winded answer, Coach.
No, I think you're spot on because isn't it interesting that Harrop is over here because he aged out in the MX2 class, at MXGPs. Just put that into perspective. We have people that have made a career racing in the 250 class, and then the MXGPs, literally, you age out. You've got to move on. It's like you literally got a foot up your butt. You got kicked out of the class. It fits right in with what you're saying. It's kind of, we've got a lot of these things working independently instead of them all being merged and integrated, because I think it would elevate the sport all the way around. It would decrease the number of injuries. It would decrease the cost of going racing. You know me, I'm not into distribution of wealth at all, but I do think it would be nice to see the playing field where the privateers, where the privateers do feel like they can be legitimately competitive. You see this, and again, we're not saying that we're not saying that life is fair. What we are saying is about leveling the playing field. I have a question, and I apologize. I am not savvy on this subject whatsoever, so I'm going to ask a very ignorant question. When you watch Formula One, Michaela and I have kind of got turned on to Formula One because of the Netflix. And this was before the whole Red Bull issue that happened with Chris Horner just recently in the last week. But before all of that went down, when you go to a Formula One race, are there any other races during the race weekend? Or is it only Formula One? Like if you go to Dubai.
No, I'm pretty sure that they've got the F2, F3 all racing on the same weekend.
There. On the same weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason why I was asking is you were talking about progress. And again, I'm not a guru of Formula One, so I don't want to even give the false impression that I am. But, I remember hearing about Michael Schumacher, and if I'd see it on TV, I kind of plug into it. Obviously, it's a Ferrari, and when you're a young kid, you're like, man, that red Ferrari, that's so badass. And, you look at the horsepower and the weight of the car. And to your point, though, Johnny, you look at the technological advances in Formula One. I'm not going to say we've paralleled with it. Obviously, the R&D budgets for Formula One are next level, but what are they doing? And I guess you really can't compare that because it's a track, wheels on the ground, where with what we're doing, you've got Jett and Sexton that are quadding something that the average privateer can barely triple just because of equipment alone. I guess it's not quite the same comparison, but when you
I
mentioned
just want to see
progression,
very close racing where everyone
yeah,
is so close because everyone's on comparable equipment. And then I also feel that unlocking here in America, the complete works machines, we will be more competitive when we go to MX of Nations because we'll be riding on unobtainium stuff, which they do a little bit, but my point is being able to progressively do more of that. And it'll build innovation where guys are looking to advance stuff faster, which just helps the overall progression of the sport, in my opinion. And regardless of if they don't make the 250 class a stock class, they're going to have to add something with the e-bikes coming up because that's just the next evolution of the sport. And if you don't think it's coming, well, you're just going to get left behind. That's Stark. I don't think is going to be around here because usually the guys that are first through the door get taken out unless they get bought out by Honda or some other bigger corporation, because those guys are the ones that are there. We talk about, like, even in the media where there's like gatekeeping going on. Well, the factories, that's the whole gatekeeping to the sport. They're the ones that make sure nothing happens unless they're all ready to do it. I want to say conceptually, but that's not
consecutively.
The right word. Yes. And Coach Millville, you had Marshall Welton pick up Antonio Caroli's bike when he was stuck. That was a really sportsman thing to do. However, I will say this, that I'm upset about it because it's, dude, here's a guy that is in the motos, but I know a lot of the guys that are outside the top 20, they just ride around because that's just, it's a long moto and they're just, the pay is the same from 20th. The pay doesn't actually start getting better until like 15th place. Where it starts making a considerable chunk into the 1,000 and above mark. So after that, it's like $350, $400 a moto for freaking 20th to 40th. It doesn't change. And so then you got guys that are just riding around. And when I want to watch racing, I want to watch racing. I don't want to watch guys that are riding around and then getting in the way because of the inferior equipment. So let's just have a works class, and the 250 class is already too expensive for most teams to join. And it's such a backwards deal because the 450 is an easier bike to prepare to go racing. But then to have a 450 team, you have to have a 450 level rider, a Dylan Ferrandis, a past champion, to even be somewhat competitive because of just the level of talent in the 450 class. But in the 250 class, it's so expensive that it doesn't matter as much about the talent you have. You will be somewhat competitive if you just have a gigantic budget. And that's not conducive for new teams or anyone to come in where they're like, hey, we don't really need the rider, but we need it makes zero sense. It's backwards.
Yeah, you've brought up two of my big hot points in the last couple of weeks. Can you imagine if Welton had gotten disqualified because he went backwards on the track? Think about that. If you watch the video, you can see Caroli goes over, and you can see Welton just turn around, and then the video pulls away. And I thought, oh man, I hope they're not going to give him shit for going back. And then we find out later that Crowley was legitimately stuck and getting burnt by the pipe. And, they even said on the broadcast this weekend that they got up and then they ended up racing each other for the next 20 minutes. Mad props to Welton in that regards, but I was glad that he didn't get, this is where I think the rules need to be looked at subjectively. It's like in a triathlon, Johnny, someone's going 4 miles an hour and gets a drafting penalty, like what happened at Ironman Lake Placid this weekend. It's just stupid, right? Stupid.
That would happen?
Yeah. I mean, how the hell are you drafting when you're going 4 miles an hour? It's just situational awareness is just nauseating.
Well, dude, even as an amateur age grouper, they gave me a 7-minute penalty
exactly
for drafting. And I was like, I was passing.
It's in a 7-minute penalty is a complete mile of a penalty. That's asinine beyond belief.
And I was 2 minutes slower than my PR best time
with the penalty.
Like it was.
But you come back, you got Welton on one side of it, and then you talk about the idea of just riding around. This is one of those situations that becomes, again, this is one of my pet peeves in regards to when you look at triathlon, look at what they've done with Ironman, right? Every second counts. The guy crosses the finish line, he gets 5,000 points. Every second, literally, that someone's behind you, they lose a point. So now the points add up where you don't have somebody just, kind of rolling around, as you called it. To me, that's just, when you look at the money.
You think that would work in moto?
I'm not saying I'm not going to say it would work. I wouldn't say it wouldn't work because I don't want to complicate the simplistic. I'm just, to your point exactly, you just mentioned it earlier, the idea that money is not very good outside of top 15. So then you've got riders that aren't very motivated. Yeah, they made the show and that's what they're there to do. But then you add another dynamic of something that I've been questioning for the last couple of weeks, and that's Ferrandis with Phoenix Honda on a 450. And if I use the illustration that you just used, a 450 is less expensive to race than a 250. And you've got Ferrandis with tremendous talent, but can't compete competitively in a 450 because they say he's got a privateer program. But then you go over and if you've got a big budget on a 250, you can race well. Do you see where they crisscross and don't make sense?
Mm-mm.
Because if you take Ferrandis and you put him back on the Star Yamaha bike, he races really well. Is that because of the big budget of the team? Because the 450, we always kind of joke that it's less expensive to race a 450 than a 250. But then the disparity on those 450 bikes, I mean, Ferrandis is a perfect example. Phoenix Honda has done a phenomenal job the last 5 years. And yet,
well, it's because it's just the top couple teams are the ones that have all the money. Like, that's why I would like to see something come with more of a works level deal, but then have, hey, here's your $15 million budget. And most of the teams are able to do just that. And to where there is no privateer team you have 10 teams with 2 riders each for the 450s, and boom, there's your 20 gate pick. And then almost to the point where then, okay, this might sound stupid, but the sport fines the teams if one of the riders is out and they don't find a replacement, right? And they move it up somewhere else, boom, to ride that motorcycle.
Well, and I don't think that's far-fetched. You've got Cowie has been void a rider, right, with Anderson on and off. I don't want to bring up Kawasaki because everybody's jumping on the bandwagon with Prado. Let's not even use the green bike.
Why not? Why not? Like it's
because I want to stay on that thread of thought that you have, because I think this is, and I'd love the input from the chat room. We've got 140 people in the chat room. First of all, hit the like button. I'd appreciate that for Johnny. But stop and think about this. You talked about the idea that we've got Ferrandis. He's going to go to Ducati, right? So you've got Ducati has Ferrandis and Barcia. Would you say that Barcia's bike was better or worse than what Ferrandis has been riding at Phoenix Honda, in your opinion, Johnny? In your opinion, how inferior is Ferrandis's Phoenix Honda compared to Barcia's gas? And then you look at the idea that Barcia and Ferrandis both are going to be going to a factory platform. If we stay on that thread of thought that you were just saying about, well, if you go on to a premium program with a legitimate budget, Should we see those guys being a little bit higher than where they're at right now? Because that's where, to me, you've got to keep reverse engineering it. It's like, how much inferior actually is that Phoenix Honda? I would love to see, you know, somebody like a Ken Roxon jump on it and see if he would be able to have the same kind of results that Roxon's had on the Suzuki. We hear that Anderson is signed with HEP. Anderson said he rode the bike and he really liked it. I've not spoken to anybody, and if you're somebody who doesn't like it, I understand, but I haven't heard anybody who says that when they jump on a Suzuki, they don't enjoy it. You know what I mean?
Wait, you're thinking Anderson is going to Suzuki?
Yeah, he signed with HEP. He's going to teammate with Roxon. But that's cool.
He's probably not going to be on the progressive side.
No. Roxon's got his own, he's got his own 18-wheeler. He's got his own $1 million budget for him to go racing. But Anderson, because it's interesting, if you think about it, Roxon would not let Ferrandis come over and be part of that team when he was shopping between Phoenix and HEP. So the idea that Roxon's cool with having Anderson come over, now you add that new dynamic. Do you think that when Barcia goes to Ducati, because he's, in my opinion, and I'm not saying Ducati, how do I say this? Because somebody's going to obliterate me somehow. It's not like the Gas Factory 450 program was an inferior program or is an inferior program. But yet Barcia's results aren't having him consistently up there in the top 5. Now, I'm saying before he got injured. I know he's been out with an injury, and that's part of our sport, and we're cool with that. You look at Ferrandis racing on that Phoenix Honda. I think their program's been very good, and he's in that 10 through 12, 13 place. How much do you think the Ducati platform bumps both those boys as we move into 2026? Because to your point exactly, you're like, well, there's just enough of a discrepancy between those premier 450 programs and the other 5 or 6 riders that are out, making up that top 10 to 15. So what do you expect? What do you think we're going to see here? And I'd be curious to see what the chat room says as well. Do we think that there'll be a little bit more parity once they jump on that Ducati? I don't know. Caroli is making the bike look really good, considering I think he's got a couple starts inside the top 10, a couple starts even maybe 1 or 2 in the top 5. It's an interesting dynamic when we look at what Caroli's come over and been able to get the bike to do. How much better do you think Barcia is going to be when he jumps on it? You're muted, buddy.
Thank you. Sorry.
How much better do you think he'll be, boss?
Substantially better. I think they're going to have a bigger budget, and what's been going on with the whole Austrian crew with Gas and even Husky. Yeah, I think it's without a question. And Dylan hasn't even been in the conversation for anything lately. So it'll be nice to see him back up front. And Barcia having just a ride is like, hey, dude, this is an opportunity that you need to shoot for it, because this might be the last opportunity that he gets, which is sad.
But has he got a 2-year deal at Ducati?
I don't know. I could try to talk with Ducati.
That's the thing that I find interesting with Barcia, because every time he's had a 2-year deal, second year, he's always so much better. I mean, he's one of those guys that historically doesn't do anything his first year, and then the second year he just gets on fire because mother of invention's necessity, right? So, it's one of those situations where I like Mitch Payton's approach, where he's like, look, I'm signing these guys to 1 year. I'm going to give a nominal salary, big win bonuses. You do well, you make a lot of money. Mitch's MO has not been hard.
This is something that has brought up that I wanted to talk about too, is guys that I think it's wrong that Prado's bike is the cause because he's performing so poorly, because he can hole shot and hang. It's the rider, right? And that's a tough one, because I'm like, hey, is the motorcycle slow? But when he in straight line speed, it doesn't seem that slow, because he's able to get, even at Washougal, he was up front both motos, but went back, boom.
Yeah.
I am still on the precipice that it is the majority of the equation is motorcycle, and speed is not the only thing. Like, you saw those Hondas rip past the KTMs and even the Yamahas going up that hill. Like those Hondas are the fastest fucking bike on the series right now. But they also have some of the best riders controlling them, and they also have the best package when it comes to suspension. The Cowie, I don't see that thing performing half as good as the even Yamahas and KTMs, and they were exponentially better this weekend at Washougal, which I thought was the primary reason why we didn't see the two Honda boys just clean house out front. It was a lot closer with the big manufacturers besides the Kawasaki. I don't know what's going on with the Kawasaki, but it's not purely just motor. The package seems good, but the suspension, they need to be doing something for Prado.
Here's the way that I look at it and I frame it. We know that Anderson's been fighting some health issues all year. He's come back and he's raced some outdoor nationals. Even if Anderson gets in that top 5 or 8,
did you see how much weight he gained?
Yeah.
Like looking at it, like I don't know if that's stress or I would assume it's stress with other things that are going on in his life. And then he even openly was talking about how he hasn't been able to train and he's just not in shape. But sorry, Coach.
Yeah. No apologies at all. To your point exactly, if we're talking about the platform that the Cowie's on, you have Anderson who's dealing with health issues and doesn't start in 4th and go to 32nd. He starts and he stays in that top 10, maybe even top 15, to your point exactly, Johnny. When you look at where, and again, this isn't, we're not character assassinating anybody, but I didn't see, where did Prado finish up in the second moto at Washougal? Because I keep hearing that he gave up.
You can't. I think he probably gave up. To be honest,
what was his final pin? 27th. All right, thank Rufio. Okay, so you have Anderson, who's on the same platform, who's not healthy, in his own words, not healthy, not feeling 100%, but he's riding a factory platform, and he can stay in the top 15 when he's less than ideal. And you have Prado, who's supposed to be, hey, he's got a VO2 max that rivals Taddy, according to your interview with him, right? He's got a badass VO2 max.
I don't believe that, but
no, I don't either. But when Prado is interviewing with you and he's like all chest out, like, oh yeah, bitch, I'm in shape. I got a big ass VO2 max. I'm a bad mofo. And then you fade to 27th place on a factory Kawasaki. And then you have the audacity to go and blame the bike. Doesn't look very good, man. Because you have Anderson, who has been very vocal that he's not 100% and he doesn't fade to 27th place. Come on. I don't know. It doesn't look good for Prado. And he's asking for a ride to go back to the GPs again.
He's given up. You know, I think truthfully, I don't think the bike is what he thought, and he's homesick, and he gels better with the works bikes. You know, maybe the competition here is a little bit closer because of the equipment, which kind of is the irony with what I'm saying compared to the argument that I had a few minutes ago is a little bit different. But we have another comment, and from Buds, will Sexton settle this discussion next year on the inferior equipment? 100%. And that has been partially my holdback on the whole thing as to like why, you know, because he just proved this weekend that he can win. Why would he then decide to switch from a winning program to then go to a program that has an inferior motorcycle? I don't know if it's the best career move for Sexton, but if he's not getting paid at KTM, which has sort of been the consensus or the rumors for the better part of this year since the financial restructuring, but they were able to come up with a promise to pay Tomac. So we will see, but it's going to be asinine for this individual if Tomac gets on his bike and starts winning and Sexton is having to try to figure out and test. And I do think he'll eventually win, but it might take him a few races before they get a good package underneath him.
Kawasaki's got a lot to lose for sure, because to your point exactly, if he comes over, he being Sexton, jumps on the Cowie and is immediately competitive, well, then Prado looks like a fool. If he goes over there and is all immediately on struggle bus, then Kawasaki's like, unfortunately, has mud on their face, right? It's like, okay, Sexton just came off of a platform. He was proven, or he has proved rather, that he can be competitive with Jett, with Hunter, and get up front and run with those boys, jumps on the green bike. I don't want to say pressure, because I think Cowie's always had pressure on them, whether they were working with James, whether they had Tomac. Now, of course, having Prado, which was supposed to be their big guy, it's going to be very interesting, because let's say Tomac goes and jumps on the KTM and does not do well. I think 9 out of 10 people would say, well, he just doesn't gel with the hydraulic clutch. That's a legitimate explanation. We teased about it a couple of weeks ago, right? When we had Osborne on, he may jump on there and go, gosh, why did I wait so long to get on a hydraulic clutch? That's the $1 million what if on the Tomac side of things. Like you said, there is a promise to pay, but I don't know if you have a balance sheet and you're doing pros and cons, what would you come up on the con side as to why Sexton would be leaving in the first place if it wasn't for the fear maybe he has or has not been paid, or maybe he's concerned that, let's say he has been paid, he's concerned if he'll continue to get paid, or if he's had some interruptions in his paycheck coming in every week. Maybe that's because there's really nothing on paper that would give you any reason why Sexton would pull the plug and go to a program when he's winning. And if the only thing that makes sense is that he's not getting paid. But to your point, they went ahead and brought Tomac on. But a lot of pressure on Cowie. If they bring Sexton over and go straight to the top, they look great. If they stay right where they're at, doesn't look so good. And I've heard two sides of it, Johnny. I don't know what you're at liberty to speak about, but like I heard when Tomac's decision to leave Cowie, I'd heard that John and his dad, John, and Eli had some pretty big demands on Cowie on some of the things that they wanted. And Cowie, as we've heard before, is just like, nope, this is what we're giving you. You're going to ride it. We've heard that quite a bit over the years. We know Sexton has a lot of demands. We know that Roger and Ian over there at KTM have made a lot of accommodations for him, things they weren't willing to do with Webb. That's why Webb left. But I'll be very curious to see if Sexton gets what he wants from the Cowie, as rigid as they are, because they are well known for, hey, here it is, ride it. And we don't want to talk about it anymore. So very, very interesting to see what happens with the green and the orange team as we move into 26.
Yeah, honestly, the best thing for Kawasaki is Sexton, especially after all this. And if he instantly starts winning, well, then the whole ideology of the motorcycle kind of goes out the window.
Who gets that second ride at green now? That's the thing I'm curious about.
You're under the impression that Prado is running back to Europe with Tom Vial.
Yeah, he's been shopping around trying to get out of his contract. So let's just go not optimistically. Let's just play devil's advocate here. If he goes and you open up a second bike, I mean, top Cowie guy would have to be Marchbanks, in my opinion, who's got the girth, the size, the results to back it up. Of course, that's going to piss Levi Kitchen off because that was supposed to be his ride, So as soon as Levi re-signed with
Kitchen and Marchbanks they have to be. Is this their last year, or
no,
are they able to?
Levi got 2-year extension. He pulled the
new rules for Supercross and everything, where if you're finished inside like the top 10 3 years in a row, you have to move up to 450s. I would say that is right there with Marchbanks and Levi. Or if you win a championship, you have 1 year to defend it, and then you're forced to move up.
I apologize. I wasn't aware of the top 10. I was only aware of if you won. I didn't realize there was a top 10. I think
it's a points thing. I need to look it up because they make it kind of confusing. But
because if that's the case, how can Jordan Smith stay in there for so many years? Because he's definitely been in the top 10 every year, hasn't he?
No matter what. Let me look this up a little bit because
And so then, that's the thing that starts to become very interesting because Levi signed a 2-year extension with Pro Circuit, and he did that as soon as they announced that, well, depends on who you talk to. Levi publicly announced that he went to PC before Sexton's, contract with Cowie was inked. I find it hard to believe because Levi was supposed to get that 450 ride. So I think when he found out that Sexton had already signed with Cowie, that's why he went ahead and jumped on the PC option. Another question that I have for you, Johnny, is when we look at the PC side, right? We thought that Shimoda was going to come over. We know that PC's been running a 5-man roster. Unfortunately, we've only seen a couple guys out there every weekend. Who stays, who goes, and who comes over as a new rider for the PC program? We kind of joked early in the year that PC is kind of matching the star. Let's just hire 12 guys and we'll get hopefully a championship out of it. They hired 5, and only 2 made it to the end of Supercross. Right now, we've got 3 outdoors. What are your thoughts as we go to 2026? Who gets the PC ride if Shimoda stays at Honda, which sounds like that's a pretty good deal, a pretty good chance that that's going to happen.
Here, I'm still looking for the damn Supercross advancement rule. You go first, Coach.
Well, I'm not sure. Like, I don't understand to what extent can Ty Masterpool's finger be hurt that he hasn't raced all these outdoor nationals? And how does he think he's not a good Supercross guy? I'm not saying he's bad, but he doesn't have the Seth Hammaker, McAdoo type of resume in the Supercross class. And for him not to race these outdoors, because that's really what's gotten him the rides in the past. And it's just, I don't know, PC is going to be a very, very interesting dynamic. I see Marchbanks, if he does get an opportunity, obviously he's going to jump immediately to 450 if given the opportunity. So let's say that opens that up. I don't see them re-signing Ty Masterpool unless they can't find somebody to give. Drew Adams stays for sure. Seth Hammaker stays after Supercross, and he's been competitive outdoors as well. I don't know. And there's a lot of moving parts of, to your point exactly, how many guys are going to point out and not even be eligible in the 250? I think it's going to be cool to see.
Well, because even like watching motocross right now, you've got Drew Adams, you have Deegan, you have Ryder D. It's all these kids that were just in super minis not too long ago and raced Loretta, and now they're all in the 250 class, which is kind of what I like to see. That's why I would sort of like to see it keep to be a factory level stock class and be able to hire 5-6 guys rather than 2 guys.
Yeah. Hey, here's a question. Speaking of Guy, Land just mentioned Pierce Brown at Star. Where was Moseman this weekend? I don't remember seeing him.
He got hurt. Michael Moseman hurt his ankle. It was either in qualifying or last weekend. So he
at
was
Millville. Okay.
But I think he got hurt in qualifying.
Okay.
Here. And truthfully, I would like to see even qualifying go back to motos again, or just.
Or how about your and then get points on your qualifying as well?
A bonus. That would be nice.
Dude, there's just so many different ways that you could spice it up and have some fun without creating a lot of confusion. Moto Fever's got Kitchen, Hammaker, Adams, McAdoo, and Marchbanks. Kitchen's got a 2-year deal
this weekend too.
Faulkner looks great. His head's clearing up and it's looking good.
I think it's because of Harp is forcing him to be like,
I don't think Faulkner cares about that. Faulkner's always been the top guy. I don't see him feeling threatened by anybody.
He's not riding like the top guy. I mean, this weekend was good, but
you got to remember this guy had his brain opened up at the beginning of the season, and fortunately he's got a multi-year deal. But if you look at his incremental improvement since we went outdoors, you can look at first of all, he finished Supercross, something he hasn't done in a long, long time. And then, in fact, I don't think he's finished Supercross in 5 years. Our chat rooms are pretty good gurus on statistics here, but I don't think Faulkner's finished Supercross in the last 5 years. So he finished Supercross. And then the fact that he's broken into that top 10.
Well, didn't he have a guaranteed ride for the 450?
And he got bought out of that. And that's why, he didn't give it up. He got bought out of it. That's, these guys, and that's one of the things the agents do a great job is they know the value of their rider. And Faulkner was given that in his contract, was given that opportunity. And I'm sure he got cashed out of that, but he's got a multi-year deal over there at Triumph. Now, I heard somebody mention something. I don't remember where I heard it, but doesn't Jordan Smith have a guarantee 450 on Triumph? I thought it was 2 years, 250, 1 year, 450. Because then I had heard that he might stand a chance. Johnny, it may have been your reaction show when was it Jordan that you were talking about might not be recent. Oh no, you were talking about Faulkner in your reaction show. That's right. But Faulkner has a very long contract. I think it's like 5 years over there. It's big.
Dude.
So he's not going anywhere. But with his head clearing out the way it's looked, and if you look at his percentage of improvement,
Jerry Robin. So I'm sure that had to have.
Yeah. And I don't think, and you can see it here in the chat room, everybody agrees Faulkner is just a bad dude on a bike, and he's been injured a lot. And then to have that brain, I mean, what a blessing that they found that. I mean, I'm sorry that he had brain surgery, but they were saying like he could have stroked out because of what they found. Faulkner is on a rampage right now. And think about if you go back and you watch I noticed specifically on the second moto, you had 3 Triumph bikes in the top 10. Stop and think about that. Triumph hasn't been around for 10 years, and they're already in the 250 class, which, as we know, as you alluded to earlier, is a big budget class. Props to Triumph. Scuba Steve going over there and killing it. And I hope Styles Roberts gets that wrist healthy and gets to come back, because we haven't seen anything with him because of the injury. But Jalik Swoll killing it, Harrop killing it, Jordan Smith doing what Jordan does, even though he's a great guy. 5:27, 6:20. I don't know why we can't seem to get Jordan to get the consistency up.
Dude, this is Force Riders. I'm still looking for this damn rule. And I am having an issue here with 92 pages. But I want to find it so that I can, because it's been a little while since I've looked at it. But
well, and then if we look at these 250 teams, the guy said that Kitchen would fit good over at Triumph. Think about Star. We were just talking about the idea of Pierce Brown's coming back. I'm not sure if Mosiman, based on a couple of races that he's gotten, I don't know if he'll get a re-up. I know he was saying that as of a couple of rounds ago, he did not have a contract. So Deegan goes 450, opens up there. You've got Pierce Brown. I do agree with the chat room. I think he's going to be the guy for Star next year. Mosiman's going to be solid. Who else is over there on that Star?
Well, Bobby Regan was trying to get Mosiman to, or was it Rich that was trying to get Mosiman to quit?
Yeah, I think both of them were at one point in time. And Rob, thanks, guy. Cole Davies, out of sight, out of mind, right? I mean, it's good news.
The Oz X too. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you imagine when he goes back to home? And but now you look at Star Yamaha. Historically, has always had a big team at the beginning of the year. Wow. We see PC kind of emulating the same idea. Start with quite a few riders. Sorry, guy. I totally messed that one up, Zoo. Yeah, Cole Davies, and I can't believe I'm a perfect example of out of sight, out of mind. And I don't know. It's crazy when you look at that 250 class, because you have Jalik got a great start, was running up front. You have the Triumph boys, as we were just saying. You have 3 of those guys in the top 10. You got Deegan out there on the Star. Then you've got Seth Hemmaker, Marchbanks doing well with PC. I wish we had Hymas out there with Honda. It's cool because it's not like you just have one guy or one color that's just blowing the field apart. It's been a really good mixture. I mean, we even saw Voland up there on the Club MX side of things. It's cool to see how dynamic the top 10, top 15 guys have been on 250 almost every single weekend. I mean, I think right now Deegan's more interested in winning the war instead of winning the battle. He's still cashing some big checks, but that SMX check is what I think he's really leaning hard on. So, it's going to be interesting to see how these team dynamics change. Because if you've got Shimoda and you've got Hymas back at Honda on the 250 side, we're back to the musical chairs with Star and with Cowie. And then, Club's done a great job of keeping their roster's been pretty broad spectrum as well, especially bringing up some of these young amateurs. But I do think Drew Adams, he's going to have a safe spot at PC this year, where he was not sitting pretty comfortable going into 2025. I think he'll be feeling pretty comfortable coming in for 2026 for sure. I know Seth's got a re-up as well. So What's your the comment was here, and I want to grab on the comment, engage with the chat room a little bit about kitchen
found
being
it real
exhausted.
quick because
Go
for
for it, bud.
some reason of the full rule book is under section 5.5.1, but then under the full rule book it ends there. The sections disappear. So yeah, that's why it's so hard to find. But a rider that wins a 250 Supercross championship will be eligible to participate in the 250 Supercross class for a maximum of 4 years total. So if you've won one, well, you can go for 4 years. Doesn't matter if you win another one. Okay. If a rider wins a 250 championship in their 4th or more season, that rider will be eligible to compete in the 250 Supercross class the following season only. So if he wins the 4th, so if he hasn't won anything, but then he finally wins one, he can have a maximum of 5 years. Okay. A rider must earn at least 5 points for it to count as a season. A rider that wins a 250 Supercross championship will be eligible to participate in the 250 class for a maximum of 3 years total, regardless of what year they won their second title. If a rider wins their second championship in their 3rd year of 250 Supercross competition, they will be ineligible for the 250 class. What? Wins in the 4th or more season that rider will be eligible between. So is it basically saying like if they didn't make any points for their 4th, and then they could defend it 1 year, but if
See, I got confused on A, where it talks about the next season only, but the one before it has a maximum of 4 total. So I don't know the difference between the 4 total and the following only.
Yeah, so if you make 5 points or more, you're only allowed 4 years.
But that doesn't make sense though, because Jordan Smith's made more than 5 points a year every year he's been pro.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
And then I also apologize because I Am Shredded brought up Max Anstey's over there at Star as well. There's another guy that's been in the class for a very long period of time. A lot of injuries, unfortunately. So, now we're getting a little bit better.
He's made more than 5 points and he's won the championship before.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm having a hard time is a rider wins a 250 championship in their 4th or more season. How's that even possible if they say you have a maximum of 4 years?
Mm-hmm. That's why I got lost where on the second one when it said, and then if you read the last line of that on A, the following season, and then it says only. So between number 2, talking about 4 years total, then the first line of A says 4 or more, and then the last 2 says final season only, following season only, excuse me.
Yeah,
so
but then when I
apologize, I'm lost.
Supercross rule book, there is the no section here. So I will look for a little bit more clarification, but as of right now, there's zero really clarification because now it's 5 points for 4 years and you have to get out, which.
Well, all right, let's go back to the chat room. They brought up Pierce Brown. He's been around in that class for a long period of time, riding for TLD for forever. So, he got more than 5 points. I mean, yes, he got injured last year and went out. Max Anstey, you have the young guys over there, Cole Davies, Moseman. He's been in the class for a very long period of time because Moseman was riding for TLD as well with Pierce Brown. And I think those guys were there for 2 or 3 seasons. And they made more than 5 points. And they're both still in the 250 class going into 26. And maybe someone in the chat room has heard or knows him personally. Are we going to see Max Anstey before we go to SMX outdoors? Because he's got to be up there in points after a Supercross season. Of course, I don't know when he got hurt. Maybe he didn't get a lot of points.
I don't think he will be, but I think he'll definitely be in for SMX for sure.
Speaking of SMX, what bike does Sexton race at SMX? What bike does Tomac? Does their contracts keep them on their colors that they're on now through SMX?
Well, I think those.
Because I thought those contracts were up
October. I don't. Think
I thought weren't those contracts up October 1st, or is it the end of October?
Well, it goes September, October, and all the SMX stuff is in September. So I doubt we'd see him
Okay.
on the new stuff.
For some reason, I was thinking SMX was in the first week in October.
It's been a little while since we've got one of these. So Zoo Gang donates $10. Do you think the Triumph 250 is a top 3 bike?
Poof.
It depends on what rider is on it, truthfully.
Harp's making it look competitive. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. Yeah. The HRC Honda is the second best thing to the Star Yamaha. Bike. And so then from there, we're talking about KTM, Gas,
PC,
and Kawasaki and Triumph. Yeah. Where do those all fit in?
Well, I think you've got to, I mean, looking at the starts, I mean, you've had PC almost at the front of every one of those starts.
PC is probably the third.
That's what I would think.
Then I would have think that Triumph is right there with KTM, maybe below that, but battling right there with Gas and the Husky. So it's probably fifth, right?
Yeah, but not because it's light years behind it. It's just so minuscule at that point. Excuse me. And I do agree with you, on the KTM. Are we seeing the best riders on the KTM right now? It's again, it seems like it's a hot or cold where you look at the Cowies consistently. They've got two guys up front.
I'm disappointed in how Tom Viala is racing, at least in moto. I was expecting him to be better in moto than he is in Supercross, and we're getting him being better in Supercross than moto.
Well, and what makes it a difficult conversation is a lot of people say motocross is a lot harder. And is this an illustration that they just don't want to do the work? I mean, we've seen a lot of Supercross contracts only. Obviously, Roxon right now is running a Supercross only. McGrath was the first one to run a Supercross only contract. But yeah, we know motocross it's a grind. 2 motos, 30 plus, 2 hour in between. Tracks are not very convenient.
All right, Coach. I found it again, but in the actual rule book. But it's under a completely different. Anyway, okay. So following season, championships may ride either region. Only compete at number 1 plate. A rider that wins the 250 championship will be eligible to participate in the 250 class for a maximum of 4 years. Makes no sense. If a rider wins the 250 championship in their 4th or more season, see this? No. There is no such thing as 4 or more when you say a maximum of 4. Okay. Agreed. That rider will be eligible to compete in the 250 class the following season only, which makes sense where, if on the 4th season they win, they can defend it. But a rider must earn at least 5 points for it to count as a season. A rider that wins a second 250 championship will be eligible to participate in the 250 class for a maximum of 3 years. Okay, so if they're like a Deegan who wins one, and then if this year wins another one, because he didn't win his first one, he's out no matter what, regardless of what year they won their second title. Okay, so if a rider wins their second championship in their 3rd year, which would be Deegan coming up here, which would be his 3rd season. Correct me if I'm wrong. Rob's his 1st season, he didn't win.
Right.
And 2nd season, he just won against Davies. So he wouldn't be eligible to defend at least the Supercross East or West because of this rule. A rider who has been advanced to the 450 class through points will not be eligible to return to the 250 class. Riders finishing in the top 15 of the 450 class and points 23 will not be eligible for 250 class. Riders finishing in the top 15 in 23-24 that have self-advanced themselves to the 450 class wish to return to the 250 class may appeal.
Yeah, you're getting deep in the weeds there.
Yeah.
If you go back to the top A, is that why Vial has to go 450?
Because of 4 years, or A?
Or the next one right there. Yep. Is that why Vial has to go 450?
Yeah, he is pointing out.
Okay. But it's interesting. Well, I guess just because of the two championships back to back, I guess that's what's bit him in the butt. Because we go back to the Max Anstey's, Jordan Smith, you know.
Well, no, I
most
think
men.
you're right. Is actually this rule is 6.
Yeah, I like the chat room. Like Rufio said, who's on first? What's on second? I don't know. Who's on third? And like Rufio said, let's solve the riddle. Yeah, I don't know. This is the kind of stuff. There's so many if thens that it tends to. But
you are right. Like Faulkner has to be effing right there.
Max Anstey, Mosman, Pierce Brown. I mean, guys that have been in there for 10 years.
Is the only guy, Ryder D, and
well, you got to think about. Well, Ryder D's only been a pro for going on 3 years now, so he's been injured. I mean, he has not even finished.
The field is having to move, and so because of these points, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see redaction of the rules, because if you have Prado and Tom Vial running back to Europe, that's not a good look for Moto when they have a series of World Supercross that's trying to compete with them. Yeah, be surprised.
Well, and isn't it incredible timing that World Supercross has come out with those big 4 heavy hitters? You think about what that's costing them to bring those 4 guys over there. You know, and we know we've talked about on the show before, those 2 new investors, those young guys, literally billionaires. So it's not a money issue, never will be a money issue when it comes to WSX moving forward. And I think that's something that a lot of people have forgotten about. Yeah, off to a rough start, like any new business. There's been some changes of ownership and management, but Johnny, when did those 2 billionaires come on board? Was it in 24 or was it all the way back in 23? I think it was towards the end of.
It was the end of last year, is what it was.
Well, but you're talking
no. It was the beginning of
23.
It was the beginning of last year. So
I thought it was in Q4 of 23. Yeah. So think about it. You've got 2 billionaires. Money's not an issue. Never will be an issue. Billionaires, 2 of them. And then they've gotten a lot of the growing pains worked out. Look at who they put up as their 4 marquee guys. And I know some people were a little bit, pissed off that it wasn't Vince Freezy. He kind of put him on the map and then got bumped, right? But look at the 4 guys. Webb. Now, one of the things that I find interesting is when you look at the idea that Tomac was listed as going to World Supercross, he's going to KTM. We've never seen KTM support World Supercross. We know that Vial is not going to be on KTM, at least not on stateside, and he's signed up or he's committed. So when let's just say he does stay in KTM, what does that say about World Supercross that now KTM's making a commitment to go? But if you have Tomac going, and we know that he's a KTM deal, let's say Vial doesn't stay on KTM for whatever reason, North America, KTM's allowing Tomac to go race World Supercross, and what bike will he run when he goes over there? Because like when he was riding for Yamaha, right, he was on a Yamaha bike, but it wasn't a Star Yamaha bike. I forget. I think it was CDR Yamaha. I think is who provided him the bike. So you start breaking that. You see a momentum shift here. World Supercross has got 4 big dudes, one of which is Tomac, which is now in KTM, who's never supported World Supercross. You don't think there's a momentum shift going on? 2 billionaires can make shit happen. And if they get the momentum,
you are right. It's looking, and then not to mention when you have guys like Tom Vial and Prado potentially tuck and tail and run into GPs again. But then they will probably then race World Supercross.
I was going to say, I think it's less about going back to the GPs as much as it is releasing themselves to go make more money doing 4 to 5 races than they'll make the entire year of racing here in the States. See, that's what you have to keep in mind. The amount of appearance money that they're getting alone is going to be 3 to 5 times more than what they're going to make if they won every national over here.
And
to do 4 races.
It's going to be in 2 months rather than
make the same amount of money in 2 months with 4 races than racing an entire summer. And you've got guaranteed money from billionaires. where would you go, Johnny, in your prime?
Yeah. Or even at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But think about it. When you look at somebody like Tomac, right? I know a lot of people say he's at the end, but he's still at the top. It's not like he's back there in 15th or 20th
No,
place.
I
And
truthfully think that this is almost like the best we've seen Tomac ride, and it's because of
Mhm.
the force progression from Jett and Sexton, and I
and
have
think
to
of
say Hunter too. So
and think about how difficult it is, right? If you're the guys at Star Yamaha, I'm not saying that they're not giving Tomac 100%, but you can see where that would be a very volatile environment under the tent. You know, how much work are you going to really put into bending your back to make Tomac? Let's say Tomac gets on a rampage. Do you think they really want him to get number one and then take it to KTM? Hell no.
Mhm.
That's the last thing they want.
Mhm.
You think Bobby Reagan would even remotely allow that to happen? If it got to a point where Tomac started gaining momentum, you think Bobby Reagan's like, yeah, let that boy win and then take my number one to another team?
I don't know. Well, he
Hell
might be able
no.
to do it for SMX, not the Moto stuff, but maybe for XMX.
Yeah, SMX is a complete, but do you see the momentum that SMX has gotten in a very short period of time? Because it's gone from a disorganized, one of the things that's
Well,
still
it's
a little
forcing the riders to race a little moto so that they have a guaranteed spot
yeah,
in, because watching Webb, talking with Webb, it was like, hey, just sort of phoning it in so that I get the points. Like, people don't give a crap about moto right now. I mean, I'm saying the riders at least are finding less and less involvement in moto.
yeah.
And so, even talking with Donnie Hansen, where they were having like the first 3 supercrosses, then it was a motocross, then it was back to a couple supercrosses. I'd really like to see that stuff happen.
I want to change the subject for just a moment, but it's on the same thread of thought. I've heard several people, particularly at the AMA, say that as soon as the riders complain that the season's too long, and I've heard some media pundits talk about this as well, it just shows me again that there's another agenda underneath the hood a little bit. I've heard several times the comment be made that the riders complain that the season is long, and then as soon as the season's over, they go and do overseas races. That's probably one of the most unintelligent conversations I've ever heard. Why would the riders go and do more pickup races during the off season? Because it's guaranteed money that they don't get when they do race a series that goes from January to October. When you can make more money going over and doing 2 or 3 races, guaranteed money, it is essentially an insurance program. So if you do get hurt, you still made more money. You see the problem? People are like, well, they bitch about the season's long and then they go and they do more European races or they do appearance races. Yes, because of the pay. They don't want to go fucking race more. They're getting paid to do less races, which makes them more money than if they race a 10-month series.
Appearance money is going to stop once World Supercross gets more popular because they're going to have
appearance money from WSX?
Yeah.
No, I think it'll go up. I think it'll go up substantially
because
as the series is so
new norm for that.
The series is a business. They're running the business not like a monopoly like we have here in the States. What you have over there is they're investing in the riders. The series goes up. They make more money. They give more money to the riders. Series goes up. You say it all the time, rising tide. It's business 101. It's business 101 when you step away from a monopoly. If you reinvest in your product, everybody benefits. You think about any big company,
that's an
right?
interesting way of looking at it. And there is some sort of rapport that you have there with potentially it being just that, an insurance policy for a rider to, hey, I get hurt, but I made $1 million over in World Supercross, so I'm still net positive.
But the problem is the narrative over here is, well, they complain that the season. See, what's happening is our promoters are trying to justify grinding these guys from January to October. And then when they say, well, they go and they do European races, they do races for, that's a very, very sly way, a very manipulative way to say, oh, well, the reason why they're doing that is because they're just not tired and they want to keep racing. No, it's for money. Absolutely for money. And nobody wants to race for 10 months and make a third of what you can do when you race in 3 weeks. It's just common freaking sense. But it's a very controlled narrative to say, well, look, they still go and race even when the
I mean, it
season's
works
over.
both ways, but I tend to, from a riding standpoint, it's like, why would you did 33 races. Why do you want to go add on another 4? Like
Because of the amount of money for the amount of races that you do. And then if something does go wrong, you've made more money in a month than you've done over 10 months. And yes, we're going to have that handful of 3 guys. Jett, big salary, huge salary. He just signed the largest contract in motocross history. It's huge. So besides the amount of money he makes on a
now
monthly
everybody
basis.
wants to, sounds like, a little bit of the number.
Yeah, I
there.
mean, I heard it's a 5-year contract. It's the largest contract we've ever seen in motocross. And so there's not,
And,
I mean, again,
and what are we talking money wise? What are you thinking? 10?
close to 15. So when you start looking at the idea that, Sexton's going to be making good money, Jett's making good money, I would assume Hunter's making good money, not quite as much as Jett, right? So you start putting all these elements together. Yeah, with the exception of those 4 or 5 guys, yeah, of course, when World Supercross offers Webb to go over and do a race and he can make more money in 3-4 appearance races than racing 10 months, where do you think he's going to go? But isn't it very convenient that they say, well, look, they bitch about the fact that the season's 10 months long, but they still keep racing. And I'm like, man, oh man, that is such a twist of the truth. And they know it, but they're going to reframe it to say, oh, and it's kind of the mantra that the AMA has been using as well. And it's just a shame because I love what the fact that these investors are doing, these billionaire investors, because they've built businesses, they've built football teams. Literally, we call it soccer, they call it football, right? I mean, they're investors and they've built multi-billion-dollar football teams over there. And they know the more you reinvest in the product, everybody benefits. And it's the revenue share of TV. It's the revenue share of the gate. I mean, it's everything. So I think the appearance money is only going to start to go up, 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 and it's going to go wider. You're going to have 10 guys getting paid to show up instead of 4. Stop and think about that.
Well, Coach, it's about that time. So,
always good, man. I know you've got a little girl that needs some breakfast.
Yeah. For all you 2-wheel knuckleheads, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for us. And as always, Coach, thanks for being here. We've got some good guests planned for next couple of weeks. I know there's an off week, so, don't kill the messenger if we don't do a show next week. But anyway, till next time, keep it WFO.